Hello and welcome everybody. Today, my name is Jason Kreidman. I'm an e-commerce strategist, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 external SEO tips to increase traffic. I've been doing SEO probably for about 16 years, and I can tell you that not much has changed with the fundamentals since the beginning. And so really, a lot of people will tell you sort of these tricks and gimmicks and different schemes. Really, we're talking about the fundamental 5 most important things you can do to your e-commerce site that will affect your SEO and the effect of your traffic and ultimately your sales. So today, what I'm going to do is first just briefly touch on what SEO is. I'll get into why it's important, why should you care about it, and then I'll give you those 5 tips. And for each tip, I'm going to tell you why it's important, what to do or how to implement it, and then also in the OMS, the back end of an external, where can you make the change and actually do the implementation. And then if we have some time left over, I'll do some question and answers. If you do have any questions, please type them into the field there that you should see in your webinar, and I'll try to get to as many questions as I can. If it's not related to the slides, or to the presentation, and you have some other SEO questions, I'll give you my contact information at the end of the webinar, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. So let's get to it. So what is SEO? I'm going to start real basic. Search engine optimization is the process of improving the quality and the volume of traffic from search engines. You guys might know it as natural search or organic search. The others is paid search or AdWords, things like that. Sorry about that. And so what we want to do is focus on the organic or natural listings. And for me, in doing this, there's a couple different things that I have focused on, or what I consider as part of SEO and the SEO elements. First is a competitor analysis, just looking at your competition. Of course, many people look at where am I ranked, what is my competition doing, and that's really part of SEO. Keyword research, it's essential to look at what keywords people are searching for, how can I target them. Content building, really content is king. This has been the same since the middle of the 90s, that content is king, and that continues to be the case, that you must have quality content in order for the search engines to like you and get ranking. Code enhancement, that's a lot of what most people think of when we think of SEO, and that's changing the actual code on your website, whether that be structural code or title tags or things like that. And then, of course, it's becoming more popular with social sharing, but linking and link building, and of course, those techniques and things have changed over the years a bit, with certain types of linkings, type of linking being good versus bad, and the social aspects with social media have really come into play as far as having an impact on your rankings. And then, of course, we have to measure it. Make sure that what are we doing with all these things? How is it performing? How can we improve it? And so this is sort of a cycle that has continued. And so this is really the core foundation of what I consider SEO and what we look at. So really, the question is why it's important. Why is it important? And why should you care as an e-commerce owner or the manager? Why should you care about this? Really what we're trying to do is improve the site's relevance to the search engines. And a lot of the SEO that I'm going to speak about today is actually the on-page SEO, which means SEO that you can do to your website. It's not the link building, it's not the social media, it's not the other things. It's really the changes and the things that you can do to your website in order to improve the relevance to the search engines. And what that does is that improved relevance increases your rankings. And so when somebody's searching for a specific keyword that you find is important, your rankings are increased as such. When you increase your rankings and you increase your optimization, you have increased click-through rates within the search results. So if you're showing up at number 10 and all of a sudden you're now at number 6, your click-through rate, meaning the amount of times that somebody sees you relative to how many times they click, is going to be improved. The farther you get up the list, the better your click-through rates. That ultimately then comes through and makes more traffic, and what the hope is quality traffic. And in the end, what we're all searching for really is increased sales. That's really the holy grail of this, of why are we doing SEO and why it's important. We want to make more money. We want to make more sales. So the first tip, and you're gonna see some similarities into why these tips are important, and it goes back to this content is king. Really keeping that in mind. So optimizing your category names. This is often overlooked, and a lot of these things that I'm going to talk about are overlooked. A category name needs to be relevant, and what you do is by adding keywords to the category name or optimizing the category name, you're going to be adding keywords to your site. And I'm going to give you an example of this a little bit later. What that does is provides deeper relevance for the search engines. So when you optimize your category names, you're really telling the search engine, hey, this is what it's about. Somebody might come onto your website, and let's say you are, I'm going to use the example of Nexternal's golf site. And when somebody comes to the website, they know what a putter is, they know what a club is, but to the search engines, they may not be able to provide as much relevance for that. So what we want to do is we want to use very specific keywords and saying, okay, maybe this is a golf club section or a golf putter section. And so that's really important to add those. And the category pages you want to really focus on optimizing, because behind the home page, those are the most important pages of the website. When you look at the categorical tree or the tree of what's important, you have your home page and then your category pages, and those come next. So that's really important to focus on that. So how do we do it, or what do we do? First, you have to research what are the keywords that people are searching. If they are searching for the word clubs, that's great, but there's a lot of different kinds of clubs. There's dance clubs, there's clubs that you can use in other aspects or other things. So you really want to make sure you understand what is the search terms that we were going after. And be descriptive, as I said. Using one word might be relevant to a visitor. It's not relevant to the search engine when there could be multiple options for that. And so finally, just once you've found the keywords, use it in the category name. So where do we do this in Nexternal? So you probably are familiar with this. But what I'm going to go do is just kind of show you in the back end here. So if we have a category name, we're in the categories. And here we have, let me log in here. So we go to our categories, and in this instance, as I was showing or explaining with the clubs, this makes sense. People understand they're golf clubs. But really, to the search engine, we want to make sure that they're very clear that this is a golf club. And so you might take this into consideration when you're looking at your own website. Are you being as descriptive as possible with what you're naming your category? So here we would type golf clubs into the category name field, and we simply update it. It's pretty simple. So what happens also, you don't have to worry about a redirect or some other things. The back end of Nexternal already will redirect that page appropriately, so you don't need to worry about it. And so these are all easy things that Nexternal handles, so that you don't have to worry about it, and you don't have to be concerned that it might error out. So that's the change on that. So the second one is optimizing your product names. So similar to a category name, you really want to look at what am I doing for the product names. And I'm going to also touch on, because you change your category name, if you're doing this from scratch, you're doing this from the beginning, that could potentially change a lot of things. Changing your categories could change the actual URLs that you're using. It changes your title tags. It changes some other things. So what happens is when you do these changes, they can affect multiple areas of your website. So my disclaimer here as well is, be careful with the changes that you are making, whether you have a consultant that you're working with or it's yourself. Making these changes prior to doing these, you want to make sure you understand the ramifications of what can happen. Within External, you shouldn't have any sort of broken links or anything like that, but I'd still make sure you understand and make sure you're reading upon, or ask a consultant or an expert of really, hey, are there any things that can happen that could go wrong with this? Because you just want to be careful. So that's my sort of disclaimer. Optimizing your product names in a similar fashion, same thing. It adds, you want to add targeted keywords, or it adds targeted keywords to your site. It makes it deeper relevance in the search engine. And a big one is allowing for the differentiation over competition. If you are the manufacturer of the product and then you also sell it, this might not be as big of an issue. But if you sell products that are manufactured or sold by other people as well, you really want to differentiate yourself. And so if everybody is calling this a XYZ putter, you might want to add some different elements to it. So how do we do that? Well, you'd research maybe the volume of the keywords. So you want to look at, for that specific product, you want to see what are, more extensive search terms. How could you word the product differently so that it might appeal to a broader base? And so you use those keywords in the product name. One of the great ways to do and be descriptive is by using the color, the brand, the size, the SKU, or whether it's male or female. So let's say in the sense of when you have a putter, maybe it's a graphite putter. Maybe it's specifically made for women. Maybe the SKU is something that's looked for, or the brand name. So those are all things that you want to look for in actually changing the product names and optimizing that product name. Doing that will then potentially change the URL, could change the title tag, and if you're doing and pushing those products out to other places like comparison engines or shopping channels and things like that, it will also help you there. And so the reach can be very, very good. So these are things that are often overlooked. People, like I said, they look for the gimmicky stuff and other things within SEO. We really have to start with the fundamentals. What can you do to the structure of your website and the naming that'll really help you? And so in the back end, same thing as we showed with the category names. Here we might go into a category. I can show you here, now that we have golf clubs, let's take a look at putters. And here there's a Monza Corsa. So what we would do here, I'm sorry, I can go back here. So we would edit the product. And we might call this, I believe this is made by TaylorMade, and it's also a putter. So let's make sure we put the word putter on there. So just by changing that, we've added a tremendous amount. We've added the brand, we've added the type of product that it is. So you want to be descriptive in what this is. Now, like I said, if this was graphite, if it was made specifically for women, or it had a specific SKU number or model number, that might be something else that you could put in there that would be really helpful. And so then we would just go down, we'd change that, and do this. So now if you have thousands of products or tens of thousands of products, you might want to consider starting off and doing this on, maybe it's your top 25 or things that you make the most margin on, or however you decide. But doing these types of things is extremely important in allocating your time. Maybe you do a couple a day or a couple a week or however. But you really want to make sure that you are doing these kinds of things. So the next is optimizing your product descriptions. And like I said, if you are the manufacturer, it might not apply as much to you, but you should certainly still optimize them. But it really allows for the differentiation over your competition. If you do sell products that everybody else sells, you have the same description that everybody else has, and you want to differentiate that. So you need to add different elements to that description, you need to customize it, and you need to make sure that it's different from everybody else. And that's adding additional keywords on your site into the products and provides the deeper relevance again. And so it's the same sort of thing. It's this the idea of content. Content. So it's very, very important. So what do you need to do? First of all, as I said, you have to write a custom description. If you're not the manufacturer, don't just leave it up to the manufacturer to describe the product. In some industries, especially things like electronics and things where the manufacturer might be really strict about how a product is described, maybe you can give your opinion about it, or maybe you can write some experiences about it or some other information that might not necessarily detract from the description of the product itself. but can add to it. That's another way to sort of differentiate. And make sure you're using the keywords. Now, you don't want to keyword stuff, meaning you don't want to just put a bunch of keywords in there. You want to make sure it reads well. You're ultimately trying to use the description to sell the product to the visitor. So you want to write for a human, not for the computer or for the search engine. But make sure you're using keywords. And as I had mentioned before, things like, how is it made, or what's it made of, or maybe how much it weighs, and some of those specific details. Even using things like UPC codes and SKUs and brand identifiers, those are all really, really important to use for product descriptions. And basically, be wordy. Just provide as much information as possible, and that's really an important part. So if we go back to the example, we're here in in the description field. You can edit this. So we edit the product, and then in the long description field, here's an example. So here, the Rossa Monza Corsa features. However, we don't have the brand in here. So maybe once again we might write tailor-made, and maybe here we'll say putter. What that does is that simply added some information to it. We don't, like I said, we don't want it to sound spammy. There's some good information here about what it does. Golfers who tested the Rossa, the Rossa putters. Maybe we add tailor-made again. You only need to add it maybe once or twice, just to make sure that the various keywords are inserted into your product descriptions. And same to the other things like the naming. Maybe you're picking your top products. If you have 100 products, this might be easier. If you have thousands of products, it's a little bit more difficult. And you just need to take the time to maybe focus on some of those products where you can really make a margin and you can really do well with, and those that you want to increase the rankings of. Remember, you can't rank for topics or for keywords if your site does not contain them. As much as the search engines want to say that they're semantic and they're inference and they understand what people are searching for, that's great. They can answer questions that people put in the search engine. It still a lot comes down to the keywords, and you have to have those keywords on your website. It has to be quality, and it has to be readable for the humans. And you want to make sure it doesn't ruin the experience of the visitor. So we're not talking about being spammy. We're talking about just providing a good foundation of content and quality content. So we went ahead and made that change there. So the fourth tip is your category descriptions. And so some people might even ask, wow, I'd never really thought of even putting a description on a category. But remember, in the beginning, the category pages are very, very important. They're really important for rankings. Oftentimes, they get a lot more visitors than many of your other pages. So you really want to try to rank these well. And that's offering more than just the product list, where your category might list 10 products, 150 products. You don't want to provide the engine just a list. And so you want to make sure you're adding targeted keywords on that site, on your site, and doing that on that page, and it provides the deeper relevance for that. So the other thing too is write quality content. You want to make sure it's quality. You want to make sure that it's written, again, for a human, not for a search engine. Maybe just use the keywords 1 or 2 times. It's not something where you have to stuff them in there. Then you also maybe want to add and insert a few links to some popular products. That also helps not only the user see what's going on, but the search engine be able to follow deeper into the website. And so where do we make that change? So if we go back, and we go back to the category, and go ahead and edit the golf club category again. So here we see there is no description. So we want to make sure we put in that description, and maybe we talk about how wonderful the tailor-made golf clubs are, and a link maybe to, in this case, there's some subcategories. So we maybe have a link to the putters and links to the woods, and so that would be important. And the other thing is you can then choose the position. Nexternal makes this really easy, where you can just choose, do you want it above the description, or do you want it below the description, or below the products, or above the products? And so that's really, you know, something that it makes it very easy rather than you having to go and redesign or do anything. So that's something that you want to just pay attention to, is making sure that you add content to all of your categories. So then we're on to tip number 5, optimizing your page titles. Now, what I will say is, for your on-page SEO, optimizing your page titles is the single most important element. That's why we saved it for last. If you're going to do anything from this webinar to take action, it's to modify your page titles and optimize them. And I'll show where the page title is and how that works. What that does is a couple things. It improves the relevancy, just like the others, but it improves your click-through rates as well. And so your click-through rates, meaning when you show up on the search engines, what shows up most prominently is your title tag. And so when you have a well-written title tag that speaks to the keywords as well as speaks to a human, you have a better chance of having them click on that. And so increased click-through rates also helps increase your rankings, and that's very important through the relevancy. So you'd research, once again, which keywords are people using. Most of the time, your title tag will take the components of your keywords will be what that category is. So in the instance of golf clubs, your #1 keyword for that page is golf clubs. And so you're going to want to make sure golf clubs is in your title. And then you might have some ancillary keywords as well. So you make sure that you use those keywords, and this goes for categories and products, every page of your website, especially your home page too, making sure that you modify those page titles. And as I had mentioned, write for a human, not for a search engine. And that's something that's changed. What had happened in the past, you might have a list of 4 or 5 keywords and you just separate them with a comma. Golf clubs, comma, discount golf clubs, comma. That's not necessarily going to appeal to the human. And as well, the search engines have caught on to that. And what Google has actually said is that if they feel like your title tags are too spammy, they may just choose their own, or if they feel like they can create a better one, they'll just create it. And I've seen firsthand experience with websites where Google just chooses to write their own title. And so you want it to see, the ability to control that the best that you can is by writing a good title. And so how do we do that, and where do we do that? I'll show you here. Is we would, in the let's say we edit the category here, and we go down to the search engine optimization section. So here we have clubs, first fairway. So that's not very descriptive. So maybe in this instance we might say golf clubs, and then we know that our secondary keyword maybe is called discount golf clubs. So we may say shop discount golf clubs. You could either say that, or maybe even we say, as I make this up, discount golf clubs on sale. That might appeal to someone a little bit better. And then maybe we have our brand name there. So here we go. This is really, somebody who writes this or who sees this is going to say, oh, golf clubs, oh, discount golf clubs. So you got to kind of look at it from the user perspective as well. Like I said, it's not just for a search engine. And then we just click Finish to save it, and then we are done with this. So those are the 5 tips. So I wanted to thank everybody. It went kind of quick, but what I wanted to do is open it up to some questions. Let me see here. And I'll leave... what you should be able to do is have some, write in any questions that you might have related to the slides, and I'd be more than happy to answer those. And if you do have any questions on SEO or other elements of increasing traffic, like I said, you can email me. Once again, my information is here. You can also follow me on Twitter as well. So that's something to do. So let me see if I can take a question here. So I got a question from Tim. Tim asks, how do I research keywords? That's a good question. So what you would do is, there's a couple good tools for that. If you are an advertiser in Google or Bing, they have some tools. Google's keyword tool has now been replaced by Google's keyword planner. It's a very good tool to see search volume, and so I would recommend that highly. So you can just, I believe, just sign up within Google and pretend you're going to be an advertiser, and you can get access to that. So that's one way, and that'll show you search volume. It'll give you ideas and things like that. Another one is there's some free tools, WordStream and also Word Tracker. Those are two keyword tools, WordStream and Word Tracker. You can do a search for either of those. They have a free option as well as a paid option, and so that's really that's really something that you could use for keywords. So let me see another one here. So Sarah asked, my store only sells one brand, though we are not the only seller on the web. Does brand name on all products make sense? Yes, I believe it does. Even though you might sell one brand, well, I'll take that back. I think you need to look at the different elements of your website, and is your brand prominent throughout content? So if your descriptions are really clear about the brand and your content on the website, whether it's categories such as about the brand, then you may not necessarily have to. However, if you are marketing those products to external sources, so let's say you are doing Google product ads, or you are doing shopping engines, if you are doing that kind of marketing, then yes, I would recommend putting the brand name into the product, because it's going to be seen elsewhere, not just on your website. And so that reach might be a little bit more prominent and important to do that. So here's another one. Does Google use meta keywords anymore? The answer is no. It's sort of a legacy thing that has been around. The keyword field is not relevant at all to Google. They've made that statement. So the meta description is still very relevant. Not necessarily for a ranking purpose, but they may take that snippet and use it for the description on the product or the description on the page. So that is important. How much category content should we write? I think a minimum is maybe 500 words, but I would say about 1,000 words, if you can, is ideal. Maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. I think it depends on how much content or how many pages you have and how many categories you have. Let's see. So Quentin, is it better to have category content above or below the products? That's a great question. So for conversion purposes, I believe and have seen it's better to have the descriptions of the categories below the products. It's just because you're then exposing the products first, and the products are the most important. And so you want to make sure, especially if you have really good pictures and if you have really good imagery of your product and you're sort of from a design standpoint, it can often look a lot better that way. For search, there's some debate. Google and some others have said that what you see at the top is more important than what you see at the bottom, and there's sort of this relevance of that. But your products are important too. So if you're optimizing your products as well, then having category content below the products shouldn't be a problem. In the other instance where you're actually writing for the humans and you want to explain something about the category, then having the category content above the products would be fine. So I don't think that would be too big of an issue. Let's see. Are there any other questions, anybody? Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. What I do, like I said, if you do have questions, my email address and my Twitter is here. I provide consulting services, but I'd also be more than happy to answer any questions. If you attended the webinar, I'd be more than happy to answer those questions. Just shoot me an email and let me know you attended, and I'll spend some time with you trying to figure out whatever solution you need. And so that's it. So hope you all enjoyed it, and make sure you remember content's king. I want to make sure you do all those things. Make sure you put in descriptions, optimize your product names and your category names, and you should be off to increasing traffic and increasing sales. So best of luck to everybody, and have a great week. Take care.